we are going to be learning how to cut a window mat, and that's where we're cutting the inside out of the mat so that you can see the artwork through the opening. And so this one's a finished one. You can see that it's signed very neatly in pencil, just like the other time. If you're using a mat board, you always want to sign it with pencil. So this is what a finished one's going to look like. The mat size is 14 inches wide by 11 inches for the height. We're going to say this is like a horizontal picture, all right? So, but the mat board, the width of this mat board is 14 and the height is 11. Okay, I know that because that's how I bought them. This is the size they are. But now I got to do my image size. I don't want to do the paper size. The paper size is 8 by 10. I know that as well because I bought 8 by 10 paper. However, we have a border on it, correct? So this white border, we don't want to count it. We only want to count the picture itself. So when I measure that, what I get is 9 and like 3/8. That's not a number I want to work with. I don't like working with fractions. I'm not a math teacher. So I am actually going to round down to 9 inches because that's going to be an easier number for me to work with. And I do want it to overlap anyway. You need the window to be a little bit smaller than the artwork itself so that there's a little bit of overlap. So we're going to say that the width is 9, okay? And that the height, same difference, it's still kind of 7 and 3/8. So the height is going to be 7. So that's the image size. So this is the mat size. This is the image size. And I'm going to subtract those. So when I do that, I get 5 inches left over for the width, and I get 4 inches left over for the height. This sounds really complicated, but I'm doing the math for you right now so that you don't have to do it later. And then I'm going to split these in half. That's why I didn't want to start dealing with fractions. So this is going to be 2.5, this is 2.5, and this is going to be 2, and this is going to be 2. So I'm splitting these in half. The width is determining from side to side. So really I'm talking about the side measurements. So this is going to be one of the sides. So side 1, this is going to be side 2. 2 inches is going to be the top, 2 inches is going to be the bottom of the mat. So I'm going to draw those on right now. Let's do the sides first. So 2.5 inches, I'm going to put the ruler on the bottom here. I'm going to make a little tick mark right here at 2.5, and then I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to also mark 2.5 on the top edge. You always want to make 2 marks when you're going to draw a straight line. Okay, if I just make 1 mark in the center here and I just try to eyeball it, it's not gonna be straight. You're more likely to get it crooked than you are to get it straight. So take the extra time to make 2 marks and get that to be nice and even. So same here, now I'm gonna make a mark at 2.5 inches here and up here as well. And I'm gonna connect those lines. So those are my sides. That means that this distance from here to here is 2.5 inches. Okay? So now I'm going to turn it so it's easier for me to mark it. Now I need to do the 2-inch borders, the top and the bottom. So I'm going to make a 2-inch mark here. I'm going to make a 2-inch mark here. I'm going to make one over here. And I'm going to make one down here. And connect those. It's a hot mess now because of all my writing, but it's okay. All right, those are my lines. All right, so the idea here is that now I want to cut out just this center part. I only want to cut out the middle. I don't want to cut this whole line off, which I've seen happen many times. So when you get to the cutter here, we're just going to start here and we're going to stop here because we want to just cut out the middle. Okay? That's why we call it a window mat. All right, so let's cut. Let me move a couple things out of the way here. Okay, so. All right, so this is a mat cutter, and it's pretty much like a straight edge. Gives you a straight line to cut on. And this is the actual cutting blade. This is the actual cutter. There's a little blade here. When I push down on this black part, the blade kind of pops out, okay? And so when I'm cutting, when I'm pulling toward myself, I'm going to be pushing down. But when I'm pushing away from myself, I don't want to be pushing down on it. I only want the blade to be pushed down when I'm pulling toward myself. If you are left-handed, this is a right-handed thing. So there's some options. There is a way that I can help you, and you can push the blade instead of pull it. We turn it the other direction. But a lot of people who are left-handed have said to me that it's actually just easier to pull it with their right hand than to push it with their left, because you have more control over stopping when you're pulling it than when you're pushing it. Okay? So we are going to start with any line. It doesn't matter. And we always want the bulk of all this on the right-hand side. So the window and all the extra, we want it to be hanging out over here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to line it up. I'm going to put this straight edge right here on this line. Okay? So line that up. That's pretty good. And on this cutter, on the side, I'm going to kind of point to it here. There's a little line. Do you see what I'm pointing to with my fingernail there? See that line? A little line kind of etched into this. That's the part that tells you where to start and stop. So I'm going to take that line. I'm going to line it up with this horizontal line right here, this one. And then that's where I'm going to start cutting. And then when I come down here, I'm going to stop when I get down to this line. So you kind of use those cross lines to start and stop. So right now I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to push down on the blade just a little bit. I just want to score it for the first cut. I always cut 3 times. 1, 2, and I'm going to come back up and do a third one. The third time, I want to make sure that I'm cutting all the way through. So I'm going to push that blade as far as it will go. Okay? So that one's done. You can feel it. You'll be able to feel whether it's cutting all the way through or not. So we've got an opening there. Now, I took this out. That's where I cut. I don't want to move it over here. Why? Because I don't want the stuff on the left. I want everything over on the right. Otherwise, that angle of the blade is going to be going the wrong way, because the blade is cutting at a 45-degree angle. So it matters which direction we go. Okay? All right, let me do 3 cuts here. 1, 2, oops, 3. So remember, I'm only pushing down on the blade when I'm pulling it toward me. So there's 2 sides. I'll get these done quick. And that, if you haven't caught on yet, there's a little hook right here, and it hooks onto the straight edge. So it's really easy to cut a nice straight line. Okay. You do have to put a lot of pressure on it. Like, you might see that the veins are kind of popping out of my hand because I'm like, a little bit, you know, I'm just trying to really, you've got to put a little pressure on it. It's not as easy as I'm making it look, okay? Got to use a little bit of muscle there. Last side. Okay. There we go. So when I pick this up, it should fall right out, which it did. If it's kind of hanging there from one side, you want to get like one of these little X-Acto blades, and you want to just kind of get in there at kind of that angle, that 45-degree angle, and just saw at it a little bit, because if you just go and you just push it out, it's going to get like a little hangnail, like it'll rip the top layer of paper off. So you don't want to do that. It's better to just kind of try to cut it out a little bit. All right, so there's my mat. The last step here is to put it all together. So a little bit of tape here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put one piece back here just to kind of hold the photo in place for a minute. And I'm just gonna eyeball it. This time you don't have to measure anything. Just kind of put it as close to the center as you can, like this, okay? Put that on there. And I also need to put a little bit of this double-sided tape around the outside. Remember, double-sided tape, it's sticky on both sides. You don't have to roll it up. You don't have to push it down on the sides here. I'm just putting it around the outside of the photo. So it's sticky here, right? So a little bit on those sides. You might end up using a little bit more than that, and that should do it. I just need it to hold in place long enough for me to get the back done. So you have a little bit of wiggle room to figure out where you want to put this. Okay? And if you push down on it, it's going to pick up that double-sided tape. It's better if your hands are clean when you do this. You don't want to have like Cheeto orange on here or whatever. And now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to put a little more tape on it. I'm just going to use this type of tape now. I'm not just going to do one side, but you know, don't be shy. Use plenty of tape. You want this to all get stuck down like that, okay? You would do that on all 4 sides, and then you'd be done, except for you still need to put your name on there. So remember, pencil, and put your name right there.